10. Anna Mae Blessing. It's hard enough to imagine someone with a name as innocent-sounding as Anna Mae Blessing committing a horrific crime. But it makes the story even more unbelievable to learn that she was 92 years old when she allegedly killed her son. The senior citizen made news headlines in 2018 when she came up with a deadly solution to stop Thomas Blessing from putting her in an assisted living facility. After pondering the matter for a few days, she hid 2 handguns in the pocket of her robe and fired multiple bullets into the 72-year-old's neck and face at their Fountain Hills, Arizona home. The victim's 57-year-old girlfriend got into a struggle with Blessing and eventually got her to drop the gun, at which point the murderous matron pulled out another pistol and pointed it at the girlfriend. Luckily, the quick-thinking woman knocked it out of Blessing's hand. Blessing was sitting in her recliner when police arrived and took her into custody. During questioning, she said that she had planned to take her own life after shooting her son, but was unable to after having the guns wrestled away from her. She also explained that Thomas and his girlfriend were ignoring her after returning home from a vacation and that they didn't treat her well. Blessing was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and kidnapping. She passed away in jail hospice in early 2019, just weeks before her case was set to go to trial. 9. Joan Burke. Earlier this year, police in Palm Springs, Florida, responded to a call from a man who said he got home from work to discover his 62-year-old stepdad, Melvin Weller, dead in the kitchen. Officers arrived to find the man's lifeless body in a pool of blood covering half the room. The victim appeared to have multiple stab wounds and other injuries, and the walls, cabinets, and counters were covered in blood spatters and smears. In the sink, police found several knives and a meat cleaver. A bloody nightgown and the victim's cell phone were found inside a garbage bag. The suspect, 61-year-old Joan Burke, was found laying in bed. She was reportedly alert but silent and was taken to a hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. An autopsy found that Weller had been stabbed 140 times. He was physically disabled at the time of the murder. Burke was initially charged with first-degree murder. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and received a 35-year prison sentence. 8. Kermit Gable. In November 2020, a Tyler, Texas resident noticed an old man lurking around a vacant house across the street from hers for several days. She watched as he drove past the home at a slow speed and saw him walking down the steps of the home. At one point, after hearing some glass break, she called the police to report suspicious activity. One night, shortly after the concerned civilian captured video evidence of the man leaving the house, it bursted into flames. It wasn't long before investigators caught up with the senior citizen, 89-year-old Kermit Gable, who seemed to be doing very little to hide his blatantly suspicious behavior. He denied ever being at the home, but surveillance and cell phone footage connected him to the scene, and detectives found it odd that he had several gas cans and matchbooks in the bed of his pickup truck. Gable's defense lawyer challenged the prosecutor's claims and questioned the reliability of the witness who claimed to see him at the property from across the street. But a jury was unconvinced, and after just 2 hours of deliberation, they found Gable guilty of arson, adding to the lengthy rap sheet of convictions he had acquired throughout his adulthood. In 2019, Gable was extradited to Texas from Ohio after police discovered during a routine traffic stop that he was wanted in the state for theft and violating parole. Nicknamed the Silver Burglar, he's been in and out of prison since the late 1940s, when he got his start as a career criminal by stealing and selling jewelry and furs. Gable's lifetime of committing crimes finally came to a halt recently, when he received a life sentence for the arson charge. He's 91 years old and will spend whatever time he has left behind bars, where he can no longer be a nuisance to society. 7. Thomasine Bennett. While responding to a call about a disturbance at a Washington, D.C. home in 2017, police found 63-year-old Walter Clark naked, unconscious, and bleeding with his hands bound inside a hallway closet. His girlfriend, 67-year-old Thomasine Bennett, had barricaded the closet door with a 2x4. She told police that Clark had forced her to smoke marijuana laced with PCP, also known as Love Boat, and that the couple had argued because she thought Clark was seeing other women. Bennett admitted to beating her boyfriend with a metal baseball bat over the next day and a half, and Clark was pronounced dead from his injuries at a hospital about an hour after officers arrived at the scene. A witness admitted to being present during portions of the assault and claimed that Bennett held them at gunpoint and struck them on the head while they were escaping from the home. They didn't call the police and had a history of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and drug abuse, but their stories seemed to corroborate the evidence and they had a visible head wound. Bennett made a deal with prosecutors and pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter in exchange for a 10-year prison sentence and 5 years of post-release supervision. 6. James Ray Gary. While investigating an assault that happened last year in the San Francisco Bay Area, detectives matched DNA from the scene to 2 cold case homicides that had been gathering dust for years without any identified suspects. Their findings led them to 76-year-old James Ray Gary, who had probably expected to never get caught after getting away with his alleged crimes for so long. Gary is accused of the 1980 murder of Latrell Lindsay, who was found assaulted, strangled, and beaten inside her home. He is also accused of the 1996 murder of Winifred Douglas, who died from asphyxia and blunt force trauma. Once the proper technology existed, scientists extracted DNA profiles from evidence gathered at both crime scenes. It wasn't until 2012 that they connected the murders, which happened 16 years apart, to the same killer. The information was uploaded to various law enforcement databases, but no matches were found. It wasn't until police were investigating the 2021 assault that their findings broke the cold cases wide open. While Gary has only been charged with Lindsay's murder, he's expected to soon be charged in the Douglas case, and also faces charges in connection with the assault that took place last year. 5. Terry White. When a 65-year-old woman refused to wear a coronavirus mask and refused to leave inside a Galveston, Texas Bank of America branch last year, employees called the police. An officer explained to the disgruntled customer, Terry White, that although the Texas governor had recently lifted a statewide mask mandate, private businesses were allowed to continue requiring masks and to refuse service to customers who don't comply. White protested, stating that she kept her money in the bank and was going to take it out. The officer told her that she had to put a mask on before doing so, but the message didn't sink in. Finally, he asked White if she wanted to do this the easy way or the hard way, to which she replied, "What are you going to do, arrest me?" He told her yes, that he was going to arrest her for intruding on private premises, and tried to usher her out of the door while she started yelling that an old lady was getting handcuffed. White claimed that the situation was an example of police brutality, and fellow customers were quick to correct her on that. She also accused an officer of breaking her foot and went to a hospital for treatment. Police charged White with criminal trespass and resisting arrest. Just days later, she was arrested again, this time at a grocery store in Texas City after refusing to put on a mask or leave. White was convicted of misdemeanor criminal trespass and resisting arrest and received a 12-day jail sentence. 4. William Caldwell. A 17-year-old boy and his mom were riding their bikes in Adelanto, Ohio recently, when an elderly man they didn't recognize approached them and asked the young man a question. He then repeatedly struck the teen in the head and body with a tire iron, rendering the victim unconscious in what officials would later describe as a completely unprovoked attack. When police arrived at the scene, the boy was still unconscious. He was flown to a trauma center in serious condition. While officers searched for the suspect, identified as 65-year-old William Caldwell, he was still in possession of the tire iron when they found him at a nearby apartment complex. Caldwell was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and booked into jail in lieu of a $50,000 bond. The investigation is ongoing as authorities seek information from the public. Meanwhile, the teenager's condition is unknown. 3. Mary Thornton. 72-year-old Mary Thornton recently visited a U.S. bank branch in Racine, Wisconsin, and was told by the manager that she was no longer welcome there. While the reasons for the decision to ban her from the bank are unclear, her reaction to the news certainly demonstrated a type of behavior that no business would welcome on their premises. Thornton allegedly spit in the manager's face, elbowed him, and walked out. The manager asked a woman in the parking lot to get Thornton's license plate number as she attempted to drive away. She ran over the woman's foot, got out of the car, and began swinging at her, according to a criminal complaint. Police were called to the scene and arrested Thornton for disorderly conduct. Her next court date is in September. In the meantime, the judge cautioned her to stay away from all U.S. bank branches. 2. Robert Engles. Garfield Niles was on his way to get his kids from school in Tamarack, Florida earlier this year, when they called him and said that a man with a gun was bothering them outside of a nearby bowling alley. The area is often used as a pickup point for parents. One of the kids began recording the white-haired senior citizen with his cell phone, and he responded by lifting his shirt to reveal a gun in his waistband and threatening to shoot the kid. The students fled on foot while the suspect got into his car and drove off. In the meantime, a bystander dialed 911 while Niles arrived at the bowling alley and trailed the vehicle. When police arrived and asked the man to exit his car, he accidentally put it in reverse and stepped out, causing the vehicle to run over his own foot. They identified the suspect as 73-year-old Robert Engles and charged him with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He was taken to a hospital to get his injured foot treated before being booked into jail. In court, Engles reportedly tried arguing that he has a gun permit, only to be interrupted by his attorney who said, "Mr. Engles, please do not. This is not the time." He's free on $10,000 bond while awaiting his next court date. 1. Roxanne Record. When Roxanne Record caught her 4-year-old granddaughter sneaking a sip of whiskey in the kitchen of her Baton Rouge, Louisiana home, she allegedly made the girl get on her knees and finish the rest of the bottle, which may have been more than half full. The defenseless little girl's mother, Kaja Record, is accused of failing to intervene as her daughter drank herself to death at Roxanne's command. She died with a blood alcohol level of 0.680, more than 8 times the legal limit for adults. Police began piecing together what happened after responding to a call about an unresponsive child at the home. Paramedics tried to save the girl's life, but it was too late. Kaja Record reportedly told officers that she saw Roxanne take the little girl into a hallway with a bottle of whiskey, and that the bottle was empty when they returned. But officers claim that she gave inconsistent statements, so her exact role in the situation is unclear. An arrest warrant states that Kaja tried to put her daughter in the bathtub when she saw that she had passed out, but she failed to dial 911. Roxanne allegedly claimed that she wanted to take full responsibility for the needless tragedy, admitting that she knows she messed up, that it went too far, and that she ruined everyone's lives, according to Law and Crime. Both Roxanne and Kaja face a first-degree murder charge in the horrific case. Since the arrest, the little girl's aunt, Ebony Record, has spoken up, claiming that Roxanne abused all her kids as children and went on to abuse her grandchildren. Ebony told local station WAFB that she partially blames herself for not speaking up, because if someone had, the child's life may have been kept out of harm's way. She encouraged others not to make the same mistake and to report abuse when they know it's going on. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be on a jury tasked with deciding the fate of a seemingly sweet elderly woman who seems to be fragile for prison, but has overwhelming evidence pointing toward her guilt, or be in a position of deciding whether or not to have your aging mother or father's driving license taken away for their own safety? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.